Hello, and welcome to today's session in the Get Unstuck series with myself, Sarah Archer. I'm a career and leadership coach. And if you are here with me live, please do say hello and let me know where you are watching from. I'm in sunny London. I think it's sunny. I haven't been out today yet, but a very busy morning. And the Get Unstuck series is really for you if you're a senior female leader who finds it hard to create time in their week to think about your career, your leadership, where you're taking your career, all those kind of things that are really important but get kind of put to the bottom of the list when we're super busy. So this is a session every couple of weeks for 15 minutes just to help you think through some of those thorny issues around our personal development, leadership development, career development. And I also have a podcast which covers the same topics, and that is the Unstuck and Unstoppable podcast. I'll put a link in the comments for you. So if you want to catch up on these things when you're walking the dog or in the gym, you can do that on the podcast. So yeah, it's great if you're here with me. Today we're talking about the signs that maybe there's something more for you in your career, even if you can't see it yet. And I'm just going to talk you through some of those signs and what that might mean for you and why you can't see where the next step might be for you right now, to help you navigate this sense of, I know something's not right, but I can't quite put my finger on what it is and what I would do differently, because that can feel quite a lonely place. And this is an area that I work a lot with clients on, is kind of that clarity piece. But today we're not going to be trying to fix anything. We're really just kind of talking about what this feels like, why it happens, and what you can think about doing to kind of move through it. So it's that sense of you're successful. On paper, everything looks good. There's nothing kind of wrong specifically, but you've got that sense of inside something kind of shifting. So it's not dissatisfaction, it's not burnout. It's just that feeling of this can't be all there is for me. So that sense of there's something more, but I don't know what more looks like yet. And sometimes it can show up as, you might find yourself talking about what you do, your job. It could be at work, it could be outside work. And just a moment where you've kind of caught yourself mid-sentence where you kind of felt slightly outside of what you're talking about. You just don't have that same emotional connection to what you do that you used to have. And I've certainly had this a few times in my career. And one that stands out for me was when I worked in corporate HR. And I just couldn't kind of connect. I felt like I was going through the motions. I didn't feel connected to what I was trying to do. And eventually what transpired for me was it was about a shift of sector, because internally my values had changed. I couldn't articulate that at the time, but my values had changed. And actually I needed to move away from corporate, and I ended up working in the voluntary sector, worked for the Red Cross, for Amnesty. And that for me was that kind of shift in terms of where I'd grown in terms of my values. But it can be different. That's what we're going to explore today. And it's not about kind of fixing your career today. It's really simply exploring what's going on. Because if you've got that sense of something's not quite right, that can be quite unsettling. And I should say, if you've got any comments or questions as we're kind of talking about this today, please do pop them into the chat and I will come back and answer them either at the end, or if you're watching on replay, I'll answer them if you tag me into the question. So if you think about your LinkedIn bio, this could be quite a good test of kind of where you are. If you think about if you've updated it recently, which hopefully you have, because we should be keeping on top of our LinkedIn bios. Often when I'm working with clients around this, it can feel like that's an accurate record of the past, but it maybe doesn't feel like a comfortable fit for where you are right now. It's not wrong, it just doesn't feel quite right anymore. That can be a bit of a telltale sign that something internally is shifting and we're That's the gap that we're going to explore today, is that this kind of accurate record of the past, but this sense internally that this me anymore? And the kind of reasons why you can't see it, there can be a few. And one of them can be that you're just a bit too close to your own identity. And I'm going to explain what that means. So if you've had that label of, the one who delivers, the one who leads, the one who holds it all together, then starting to notice that you want something different to that can feel almost a bit disloyal to your own story. If you've, identified with that, I'm the fixer, I'm the leader, I'm the one who sorts it out, I'm the one who makes it all better, I hold it all together, then noticing that actually I don't know if I want that anymore can feel a little bit problematic because you're so close to your current identity. The second reason that you can't see it is that sometimes our career identity lags behind our personal evolution. And there is a lot of research, both neuroscience and career theory, around this lag, this time lag, if you like. So, our sense of professional self is built through repetition and built through reward. And it doesn't automatically update when we do, in terms of our personal growth and our personal updating. So you could grow significantly as a person, but still be running a professional identity, a professional story that you tell yourself that could be 2 or 3 years out of date. And I've certainly had that. I remember someone, I did a post on LinkedIn, and someone made a comment on it about, I can't remember what it was now. It was something like being a powerhouse. And I was thinking, oh gosh, that sounds very nice, but that's not me. And it was because my professional identity hadn't kind of caught up with the personal growth I'd had in my business. So it is kind of interesting when you do think about, am I still kind of telling myself a story about my professional identity that doesn't quite match with how I've grown and evolved as a person? And the third reason we can't see it is that external success can mask that internal change. So the dangerous thing about being really good at what you do is that you're constantly producing evidence that everything's fine. So every promotion, every bit of positive feedback, every person who says, I don't know how we'd survive without you, argues loudly against that kind of quieter voice that you might have that says, but something doesn't feel right for me, something's a bit off, something maybe needs to change. It can be hard to justify that quieter voice when the evidence is saying, yeah, but you're really good at what you do, what's the problem? So all of that can get in the way of you being able to kind of really tune in and listen to what's happening for you. But often clarity doesn't come first. It's awareness first that something's not quite how it needs to be for you. So let's think about the 4 subtle signs now. I know I build it out of the sign, but there's actually 4 signs that there is more for you in your career, even if you can't see it. So the first one is kind of building on that kind of disconnection from current identity. So this isn't about not caring. It's not about burnout. It's about having energy, having capability, but the sense of meaning is starting to thin for you. So the work you're doing doesn't feel so meaningful. The organization maybe that you're working for doesn't feel so meaningful. You're just you haven't got that connection in the same way that you had it maybe 5 years ago or so. And performing well at something you're beginning to outgrow can feel like, oh, am I failing? But it's not failure. It's just a sign of how much you have developed. So remember when I talked about my corporate HR role, that was about meaning. It didn't feel meaningful anymore. It didn't fulfill my value of making a difference. And I eventually realized I had to change sector to work directly with an organization that was making a difference for me to have that connection to what I was doing again. The second sign can be where you might be drawn to different versions of life. So this is where you start to notice other people's careers, lifestyle, choices and you're drawn to them. It's not that you're envious, because envy would suggest that you want what someone else has. This is more like kind of recognition that something they're doing resonates with you. And it's unpacking what is it that's resonating. So I was working with a client this week actually, and she is thinking about what's next for her. And she was talking about someone that she used to work with who'd made a conscious choice to step away from the leadership ladder. She wasn't deciding to progress into that next level role. She was actually taking something that was more connected to her passion for nature. And she was really drawn to the fact that this previous colleague had made this choice. And it wasn't about her wanting to work with nature, but it was resonating with that change in direction. So you don't have to know what it is you want. It's just noticing what is catching your eye, what are you drawn to, and what's underneath that. The third sign can be around motivation and feeling that your motivation for your job is inconsistent. Now, when that happens, when you notice that you're not so motivated, that Monday morning feeling like, oh God, I've got another week of this, can I do it? Or that, oh, I've got this project that normally would be really exciting, but I just can't feel any motivation for it. If you're noticing that, we tend to try and go into solving mode. So we might have a conversation with our boss, we might try and tweak our schedule, we might look for what's wrong at work. And sometimes those things can make a bit of a difference. But if you're noticing that actually that inconsistency of motivation keeps popping up, it's not solved by those changes that maybe you've initiated, it's then worth asking yourself, is it a problem with my environment, or is it a signal about my direction of travel? And just getting curious about what's going on there. And then our fourth sign is that questioning without answers. So where you're having that question of, is this it? Am I going to be doing the same thing for the next 10, 20 years? Is there more to life than this? It's almost a bit like an existential crisis, but where you can't answer it. So where you just don't know the answer to, is this it? Or is there more? You just know, I'm asking that question. And it's being able to kind of distinguish between, is this coming from a place of exhaustion, where I feel like it's a complaint, is this it? Or is it about expansion? Because I know that I'm capable of more. Is this all there is? And it's just being able to be curious again about, is it coming from exhaustion or is it coming from expansion? And just sort of understanding that uncertainty is okay. It's not a problem that you've got to solve at this point. It's just information arriving that's telling you something's, a bit off. I need to explore this more. I need to understand what's going on. I need to just get curious and not move to solving that straight away. I've just got to live with that uncertainty for a bit to gather information about what's important to me. And so I think, it's just important to recognize this is a phase. It's a transition phase. You don't need to force the clarity piece. It's just gathering information and noticing what's shifting for you. And this is something that I do a lot of work in. Clarity, helping clients get to clarity at the right point is something that I offer and I kind of specialize in, because we do have that desire to solve the uncertainty and solve the lack of clarity. And that's important, but it's doing it at the right point and being able to gather enough information to help you make the right decision to get the clarity. So you could just try this little exercise. It's a small exercise to do each day this week. And that's just asking yourself a question at the end of the day, is at what point during the day did I feel most like myself? So not where I felt most productive or I felt most successful, but I felt most like me, and just noticing that, jotting it down, just to see what emerges for you when you feel like, yeah, that's really me. I'm really noticing that. And even if you're noticing that you're not feeling like you at all during that day, is information, because at this point, you are just gathering information to help you make sense of what's happening. Um, so if that's resonated with you, I'd love to know. So do message me, let me know. But also just to kind of recognize that you don't have to know what's next. You just have to trust that something's shifting, and it's a positive shift, and it's going to be information gathering to help you make sense of that shift, and noticing that this is the beginning of change, and it could be a really positive change for you. And of course, if you feel you want some help with that shifting and understanding what's going on to get closer to clarity, then do message me. We can have a conversation about how we do that for you. Because what you don't want to feel is that you are stuck doing the same thing over and over again and not being able to move further away from that question of, is there more? Because you do want to get to the answer at the right point. So do message me if you've got any questions, or if you do want to book a call, then I will put a link in the comments and you can book in to have a chat with me. So I do hope that's useful for you. Do let me know, and I'll be back in mid-July with another LinkedIn Live to help you move your career in the right direction. Have a great rest of the week.